All right, Hexagram 48. Let's pull up that bad boy. Thank you for joining me again. It's a pleasure to read these. I thoroughly enjoy this version of the I Ching, and I think that while you are here contemplating this, that things are transforming. Not that I want that to happen. Actually, I do want that to happen. Not that I'm attached to that happening. This feels really inspiring for me to read this. I thoroughly enjoy reading these. Is what I called in today for me, and there's a backlog of 2 or 3 others I need to do to get up to date. So here we go. Hexagram 48, the well. The judgment, the well. The town may be changed. The town may be changed, but the well cannot be changed. It neither decreases nor increases. They come and go and draw from the well. If one gets down almost to the water and the rope does not go all the way, or the jug breaks, it brings misfortune. Here is presented a metaphorical well, whose water represents the cosmic principles revealed by the sage. It is accessed in the manner of a hand-dug well by putting a jug tied to a rope down to the water and drawing it up. The entire process is also a metaphor for the way a person accesses the truths of life through connecting with his own inner truth. Putting the rope down far enough describes the sincerity of effort required. It seems obvious that the jug should not be cracked, but it is mentioned here to make the person aware that if he is to be successful in drawing up the water, understanding the messages received from the sage, the jug, his attitude, needs to be clean, empty, and free of pre-structured beliefs. Finally, it is not enough simply to look at the truths to be nourishing. They need to be applied to his life. The water of the well also represents knowledge and learning generally, whether it is from the sage or what a person has learned in life. The town may be changed, but the well cannot be changed, tells a person that while he may change his beliefs, his inner truth remains constant, because his inner truth is always with him, and the sage nearby in his presence, his town, is complete. His learning can take place anywhere, and the sage can use every situation to teach him. The sage teaches that everything we learn about the cosmos is but a handhold to a broader understanding yet to be attained. This is due both to the limits humans have in regard to understanding something so vast as the cosmos, and to the limitations created by language, which occur the moment we write things down as truth. When the understanding of the moment, which is always relative to the situation at hand, is put into two definite words and phrases, the effect is to put a frame around that understanding which shuts out further questioning, new perceptions, and broader explanations. Thereafter, new situations tend to be interpreted within the old frame. This is also true for handholds of understanding. The moment we fail to see that they are but temporary positions that prepare us to move on. In learning from the sage, the frame the student comes with is constantly enlarged by suspending these old frames in order to go beyond them, to see the broader view. We can understand the way language limits perception by considering that the language used by Aristotle to explain nature's ways held the world's scientific thinking in a vice until new experiments of Newton shattered that way of explaining things. Newton's verbal explanations, in turn, held science in yet another vice of thinking, until Einstein began to speak in relative terms. In each case, the science of the time, although limited, proved applicable in many instances, but when taken as final doctrine, prevented or inhibited further discoveries. When we look for the reason that the discoveries of these men halted further, When we look for the reason that the discoveries of these men halted further learning for so long a time, we find it in the fact that the collective ego grasped their achievements and monumentalized the men themselves in order to give yet one more proof of human superiority and to create an atmosphere of awe in the face of great men. Forgotten is the fact that such men were often the first to acknowledge that they received their insights from something beyond themselves, or at least through a process that they considered mysterious and fortunate. The student often approaches the sage with a fixed set of beliefs that inhibit his understanding until new experiences show him their limitations. Thus, with each new experience, the student gains a partial new understanding, a handhold, that is always a preparation for a yet broader view. He eventually begins to recognize that there is never a final fixed point of reference and that each day of learning provides new handholds. Human learning in cooperation with the sage is one of the ways in which the cosmic consciousness evolves. Participating in this evolution is a person's destiny and is felt as personal fulfillment. Key to this evolution is the fact that every situation is unique. Discovering that uniqueness and expressing it in appropriate words adds to the cosmic knowledge. The pressure of the collective ego to confine human experience only to its pre-existing and approved explanations is contrary to this evolution and to the cosmic purpose. On this account, a person feels that confining himself in this way stifles and defeats his own life's purpose. When wisdom is taken to mean absolute knowledge, formed beliefs that cover not only the broadest spectrum of human behavior and activity, but also pretend to give a complete understanding of how the cosmos functions, it is in conflict with the cosmic way. This is true particularly of ancient wisdom whenever it proceeds from a human-centered view of the universe. A notable exception among the ancients were the writings of Laozi, whose views allowed for the permanent expansion of learning and discarded the human-centered view. The sage gives the metaphor of the well to indicate how humans, through the I Ching, can access their own inner truth, which is the source of all true wisdom. It is a record, as well, of the understandings attained through consulting the I Ching by humans such as King Wen, the Duke of Chao, and Confucius, among others. Inasmuch as the insights attained by these people are taken as handholds and not as doctrine, they provide the most modern reader with insights into his own behavior. When the rope does not go all the way, forewarns of the danger that comes when ancient wisdom, which is based on knowledge of the heart, is converted into absolute truth. Then, its connection with the heart and its ability to serve as a medium of communication between the student and the sage gets lost. All ancient wisdom contains truths. But when those truths are deprived of their metaphor, they can no longer connect with the person with his inner truth. They can no longer connect the person with his inner truth and nourish his heart. When people take the text literally, it loses all usefulness and relevance and becomes a prison for the mind. The phrase, they come and go and draw from the well, refers to the I Ching as a source of dependable nourishment to which they can freely come and go. Whether a person draws from the well is entirely a matter of his free will. It is dependable because it requires going within to search out what feels harmonious and what does not. This metaphor can also be read incorrectly to mean that the stability of written ancient wisdom is such that the generations can come and go in this stoical attitude. What my fathers believed is good enough for me. Such a person does not draw upon his inner truth, but upon the traditions and thinking of his forefathers. This makes him unable to understand the messages of the I Ching. The cracked jug, which represents his pre-structured attitude, allows all the water to leak out. Such a person is under the influence of the collective ego, which has a vested interest in maintaining a fixed set of truths and the status quo, but especially those beliefs that protect its hierarchical structure and its dominance over nature. The man-made well also points to the attempt of the collective ego to replace a person's inner truth, the treasure with which everyone is born, with written texts that spell out the meaning of life. Receiving this hexagram often is to inform the person that it will be impossible for him to access his inner truth if he believes that he already knows the correct way. To communicate with him, the sage only requires that he temporarily suspend his beliefs. Then what he learns from the sage will be the knowledge of his own heart, from which his beliefs have isolated him. At some other time, he may be required to dispense with those beliefs, but not until he has himself experienced them as inadequate or mistaken, and that when he is ready to do that, and only when he is ready to do that. Often, this happens when the belief itself is the cause of an illness or other galling problems in his life. The lines. All right. Line 1. One does not drink the mud of the well. No animals come to an old well. Mud can refer to a person's allowing himself to be absorbed in fears, trivialities, negative thoughts about life, doubts about himself or other people, without stopping to say the inner no to the ego, which is their source. Mud also refers to these and all kinds of ego emotions, such as grievances, which the person is holding in his heart. The well here is also a metaphor for the heart. An old well is one which has repetitively harbored ego emotions and thus has shrunk in its capacity to love or care. These ego emotions may have encased the heart in an iron maiden of sorts, which prevents it from expanding when the opportunity to love occurs. I just want to highlight that iron maiden piece because it relates to my work. Because people sense when a person's heart is thus hardened or shrunk, they avoid any sincere interaction with that person. The cosmic helpers likewise withdraw. When the well is taken as a metaphor for a spiritual path that has been defined by humans, The line warns the person that the nourishment available in those beliefs has been muddied by time and is full of pollutants. It is a warning that drinking this mud will create a fate. Mud describes the half-truths inserted into ancient wisdom by the collective ego throughout the intervening ages to take advantage of the good reputation and credibility of ancient wisdom and thereby find acceptance. These half-truths reflect the hierarchical and human-centered view that competes with the cosmic order. This line calls attention to half-truths that stand in a person's way to understand. This line calls attention to half-truths that stand in a person's way to understanding the messages given by the sage. The person is counseled to review the basic premises of his beliefs, especially their human-centered presumptions. He may be viewing the sage as a hierarchical authority or else see himself as such and the sage as beneath him. He may be requiring that the sage prove itself to him. Such attitudes allow only the mud of the well to come through, reflecting the ego in himself. A person may also receive this line when he is embroiled in mistaken ideas about life and death, such as that death is the end of life. His idea of death is the mud indicated. These mistaken ideas may cause him to question the purpose of his life, a mistake described in line 1 of the previous hexagram, oppressing, exhausting. Spells connected with this line may have been created by phrases such as, "Life has no meaning," "What you see is all there is," "The real life is in the afterlife," "We are born as sinners," or "Life is suffering." Line 2. At the well hole, one shoots fishes, the jug is broken and leaks. When the metaphor of the well is taken to mean the I Ching, going to the well to shoot fishes means the person is making a wrong use of the I Ching. He may have an attitude of superiority in approaching it, in which case the sage will inform him that his attitude is incorrect, and then give him this line if he continues. His lack of openness is pointed to as a jug that is broken and leaks, meaning, regardless of the good nourishment the sage gives, he will not be able to take it in. The jug is broken and leaks can also mean that a person's prefixed views have blocked his understanding the sage's counsel. The idea of going to a well to shoot fishes points to the way incorrect thoughts project themselves into reality. This happens when a person hypothesizes or expects a particular result, as in an experiment, or when going to a meeting, he expects conflict to arise. His projected expectation becomes an element in the situation that forms and distorts its outcome. To avoid such distortions, the person needs to say the inner no to all such expectations and hypotheses and maintain a neutral and open mind. In and of themselves, hypotheses are not bad things. Putting them to the sage is the way we learn the inner or cosmic truth. A great many people convey ideas as truth when in fact they are hypotheses. The swiftest and best way to know whether they are true is to put them to the sage by asking for a hexagram. This line may be informing a person that he is misinterpreting the messages of the sage for the reasons given above. It can also be informing a person who is using the I Ching for divination that telling the future is not its purpose. Its purpose is to help him correct those attitudes that are negatively influencing his future as by creating fate. It's a big deal, that one. I'm going to say that one again. It can also be informing a person who is using the I Ching for divination that telling the future is not its purpose. Its purpose is to help him correct those attitudes that are negatively influencing his future as by creating fate. Shooting fishes also describes the person who approaches the I Ching with the assumption that it will support established ancient wisdom, such as the idea that life is ruled by changes and that things function through the interaction of opposite forces. In this case, the fishes represent foreign elements that have been projected onto the truths of life. People who see the world in terms of opposites see the light and the dark as opposing forces rather than complementary energies. They likewise see the male and female as having opposite natures and all other things in similar categorical terms. This line also points to a corrupting belief, the fish, held in the psyche, which is responsible for perversions and evil that are falsely attributed to human nature. The belief that man's animal nature is the source of evil in the world. This belief, as a poison arrow, injects its poison into each person's psyche as inextinguishable guilt or lack which he must overcome. It is therefore the source of all striving, competition, feelings of self hate and self blame, and due to its emphasis on sexuality as evil, is also the source of sexual perversion and compulsive desire on the one hand and self righteousness on the other. Evil is not inherent in a person's nature. It is the consequence of the distortion of his nature caused by mistaken ideas. The first step a person needs to take in his efforts to liberate his true nature is to get rid of the idea of guilt. See page 551, Deprogramming Guilt. I also did a separate video reading from the I Ching about guilt and its definition of guilt. Line 3, it's in the playlist. Line 3, the well is cleaned, but no one drinks from it. This is my heart's sorrow, for one might draw from it. If the king were clear-minded, good fortune might be enjoyed in common. Line 3. This line points to a person who, through studying with the sage, understands the cosmic principles sufficiently, but hesitates to follow them through fear of becoming guilty for disobeying the collective ego's shoulds and musts. This means that he has not freed himself from the fear of becoming guilty. Fear of becoming guilty is one of the safeguarding and reinstalling features of the collective ego's program that has been installed in the psyche during childhood with considerable force. If not deprogrammed, it prevents the person from accessing the nourishment coming from his inner truth. Similarly, the line can refer to a person who has read the I Ching's advice and understood it subconsciously, but has disdained or distrusted it, or has lacked the courage to put it into practice. Consequently, the benefit that would have gone to everyone involved in the situation is not enjoyed. If he recognizes the rationales that cause him to distrust his inner truth, the situation can be corrected. Among these rationales are phrases such as, I will lose everything, whereas in reality, he would only lose the ego. And how can that ancient book be of relevance for my present day situation? The ancient text is not to be taken as maxims of truth, but as a medium through which the sage can speak by pointing to the seed phrases and images that create the person's misunderstandings. Sometimes the words, "the well is cleaned, but nobody drinks from it," inform a person that he can trust his inner truth and follow it without harm. Line 4. The well is being lined, no blame. The well is being lined is often confirming that a person has truly understood a cosmic lesson that gives him a larger understanding of how the cosmos functions. Being lined means that understanding is still in the process of surfacing in his consciousness. Because the water of the well is a metaphor for a person's inner truth, lining the well means to take away what prevents him from accessing it. Here, attention is drawn to a person's fantasy life, which is causing him to misinterpret what comes from his inner truth. An example is a person's interpreting an image seen in meditation in the context of the ancient heroic myths, whereas his inner truth is attempting to show him a demonic figure that represents a mistaken idea, belief, or self-image he holds. He needs to use the RTCM to verify the correct meanings of these images and also to learn the I Ching way of meditating. Because the fantasy life comes from a person's ego, acting upon it creates a fate. See 435, Hexagram 52, meditating. I'll check that one out. I don't think I've done it. Anyway, receiving this line can inform a person that the fate he is experiencing is lining his well. It is showing him through the adversities he is experiencing the negative effects of his fantasies. His fate will end when he has learned the lesson. The well being lined is also a metaphor for the process of conditioning by the collective ego, in which the idea of guilt or shame is introduced into the child's psyche. It is accompanied by thoughts such as, "I am born a sinner, and I must not do anything to shame my family." These ideas put poison arrows on his true nature, which make him look at himself either as his enemy or his potential enemy. Let's say that again. These ideas put poison arrows on his true nature, which make him look at himself either as his enemy or his potential enemy. That is huge. I'll do a debrief on that in my reflections. Lining the well can also be a metaphor for self-development. When it is viewed as cultivating the higher self, then self-development becomes the cultivation of a flattering self-image, such as that of the good person, the modest person, the spiritual person, or the superior man. Such self-images have the effect of creating a rigid structure, a spell, into which the true self is squeezed and held prisoner. Such images hold the person within the definitions of good given by the collective ego. I'll say that again. Such images hold the person within the definitions of good given by the collective ego. Because these definitions are abstract standards that are impossible to fulfill, the person's failure to attain them invariably leads to self-blame. The words "no blame" indicate that he is free of blame. All he needs to do is rid himself of the poison arrow of blame and the self-images he has adopted. There's a few references here. See page 541, Freeing Yourself from Self-Images. Page 546, What are Projections, Spells, and Poison Arrows? And page 39, Guilt, Blame, and Shame. That's the video I've done. Page 39, Guilt, Blame, and Shame. I'm sure I'll do more. Line 5, in the well there is a clear, cold spring from which one can drink. It's the one I drew in today. Line 5, the clear, cold spring from which one can drink is the truth that springs from a person's experience of both the outer and invisible world. The situation is one in which he has been doubting that truth. This line is given to tell him that to maintain his relationship with the sage, he needs to make a clear choice to follow the light of his inner truth as revealed by his own experiences. The line is also saying that true satisfaction and nourishment come from doing a thing for its own sake and not with any other motive. I want to highlight that bad boy. In whatever way a person devotes himself with sincerity to a task, he will find all the helpers he needs to complete it. The truth experienced by following one's inner light contributes to the constant evolution of cosmic truth by adding a fresh taste to it, whereas following an already lit path is like eating pre-digested food that adds nothing to the cosmic evolution. Great, I love that analogy. That's great. All right, let's read that one again because it's got some deliciousness to it. The truth experienced by following one's inner light contributes to the constant evolution of cosmic truth by adding a fresh taste to it, whereas following an already lit path is like eating pre-digested food that adds nothing to the cosmic evolution. In another meaning, this line can indicate a person who is evangelizing universal truths or absolute truths. He has taken up the standard of high moral values and seeks to bring them to the rest of the world in the name of some idealism. He may be trying to set himself up as a leader in order to obtain followers, whose chi energy he constantly draws to himself. He proceeds by embracing their hopes for peace, prosperity, equality, justice, etc., and merging them into one belief that also integrates all the world's great beliefs to unify all mankind. However, nobly expressed, his views require the individual to suppress his own inner truth, correct, and his personal relationship with the sage in favor of the leader. None of his views is in harmony with the cosmos because they are based on the human-centered view of the universe and on the fiction that his idealism expresses the truth. Receiving this line can point to the person being influenced as described above due to a spell created by the idealistic beliefs the leader has convinced him to accept. Among these are all great beliefs are based on the same truth and come from the same source. The kernel of great beliefs holds the solution. Integration will remove all differences. The world needs hope. In their hopes, all humans are alike. Human needs to hold together in their search for the truth. After all, we are one big human family, and humans need to work together to solve the world's problems. I love this. This is right up my alley. I'm just going to highlight this because I'll talk about this. All right. Line 6. After this, I'll do my reflections. One draws from the well without hindrance. It is dependable, supreme good fortune. Receiving this line can make a person aware that through relating to life from his heart and all his senses, he is connected with the source of life and with everything he needs. It is also a hint to the person who has separated from his heart and his senses that he needs to recognize his separation in order to reconnect with the source of life. If he has demonized his senses through denigrating his animal nature as the source of evil, he needs to seek out, with the help of the RTCM, all the phrases in his internal program that have put spells on his bodily nature and rid himself of them. See deprogramming procedure. To ensure that the spells cannot return, he also will need to rid himself of the guilt spell. See deprogramming guilt. The inner truth that springs from the well can come as mind flashes, sudden clear realizations, voices heard, or images seen in meditation that resonate with one's inner truth. Dreams are also an internal communication between one's inner truth and one's body consciousness. Even when one does not mentally understand them, they convey what the body consciously needs to know to respond in a healthy way. This line can also refer to a person's drinking from another well, the well of remembered insults, injuries, injustices, guilt, hurt, pride, and other negative memories. He feasts on those memories, hoping that by keeping them alive, he will have some effect on the offending persons so as to bring about his final triumph. I'll unpack that. My understanding of that. Such a well is poisonous only to himself, and since those memories are stored in his heart, they daily shrink his ability to love and care. More armoring. If continued, it will lead to his becoming a walking dead person. The well can also stand for the pit of fears created and maintained by the collective ego, to make sure that people depend on the collective ego for protection. The fears are presented as the basic fears of mankind and part of the natural order of things, against which the individual must always defend his home and livelihood. Because these fears conflict with his inner truth by obliterating his knowledge of the invisible world, such a person must constantly reiterate the fears to others to convince himself of their truth. These fears are imps of the mind that jump from shoulder to shoulder to create mob blindness, hysteria, and wars. Demagogues, people whose egos see such hysteria as springboards to power, feed on and promote such fears. It is necessary for a person who sees such patterns at work around him to say the inner no to them, freeing yourself from fears. All right, my reflections. I'm just going to drink from the well with my flask. Now, this hexagram, damn, double damn, like wow for me, and the timing as well. Right. So for those of you that are watching this for the first time, I've been nurturing this relationship with the sage and this version of the I Ching for a couple of months now. And I've been reading these because there is no audio book for this, which sucks. And there's a guy that's already done some recordings of these, and I found he was reading them a little bit fast. And I just wanted to give my own reflections too. Like, I love this. This is thrilling for me. Okay, like there's so many other things I could be doing, but this is my inner truth, is to read these out. And I've been sharing this with other people too, which lights me up. Like it does something to me. It's very exciting. All right, cool. So this one here, 48 line 6. We've been led to believe that to change the world, it requires getting into politics. Some people require doing spells, like talking to all the elements, and I've been there. I've also been down the political path too. I was going to go into politics before I did what I do now. They think it requires changing policy. They think it requires everyone being converted to a religion. And all of these things focus on the human-centered view of the universe, where you have to use the egoic models in order to change the planet or transform the planet. It's not true. And in the deeper parts of my work, like for my 12-month stuff, I help someone connect to their inner truth, which involves, you can be an asshole to some people, right? Because your inner truth can come through like you are an asshole. And then you need to deal with the slings and arrows of that misfortune of having people retaliate against you. And what you learn how to do is by perfecting that inner no, it doesn't have any effect on you. It doesn't impact your nervous system. Like over some of the clients that I've worked with were very vocal during the lockdowns. And for them, they knew that they needed to do something. Rose up inside them, this inner truth, this injustice, this sense of injustice. And some of them have gone on to find other methods to find these patterns that are showing up in our lives. And then some of them are going through a real identity crisis. Like, what am I doing? Like, who am I? Like, COVID's over now. The lockdowns are done. What's going to be the next thing, right? So their central nervous system's almost primed for the next thing, right? And what I'm encouraging, and the timing of this version of the I Ching for me and my client base has been perfect, where it's like, what do you mean? I don't have to keep on putting myself out there and doing that thing, because that's exhausting. So by being able to connect to the inner world, the invisible world, there's a new way of operating that's available. And for me, like doing a lot of heart de-armoring work before I started contemplating the I Ching has been a huge benefit for me. Heart de-armoring, combination of plant medicines and the core energetics work, and having someone witness me, like, love me through my trauma, love me through all the labels that I've been getting. That kind of love, I don't think can be found for now through just trying to think it in your head, right? It really lands differently when you're with someone that can love you for who you are and allow all of your animal body things to just happen, whether it's a chronic illness, whether it's like some body function, like you have erectile dysfunction or something else. You just love them energetically through the whole thing. It's like, oh, wow, man, that must really suck. Like, I can hear your life struggles with your digestion or your chronic illness or your fatigue. Like, man, it must feel like, wow, tell me more. I want to understand you, man. What's relationships been like having this chronic illness, right? Or running yourself ragged, or having no chi energy, right? Because you've given it all. So in that, this version of the I Ching speaks to making sure that you're restoring your own chi by saying no to things that aren't your truth, and being mindful of all these phrases that we've been given as a child, like, oh, don't disappoint your family, or make sure you get a job, get married, get a mortgage, get a house, make sure you're independent, make sure you're financially independent, make sure you're showing off all your material wares, right? Make sure that you look successful on the outside, right? You don't want people to think that you're destitute. You don't want people to think that you're cut from bad cloth, right? The seed phrases are pernicious, right? And for me, like, I love helping people find those seed phrases, and it comes through in conversation. Like, I'll hear someone say something, and what did you mean by that? What's that feeling there? Your body kind of shifted, your energy changed when you did that, right? They daily shrink his ability to love and care, right? The more you store the memories of the past and part hurts and not have you yourself be reattuned or validated through your past, you hang on to things. And that's why when someone's telling you a story of their past, if they say that they've healed it and they keep retelling the same story, they haven't healed it. It's still there. The seeds are still there, right? You can say that you've forgiven, oh, let that go. If the story appears in your consciousness, you haven't let it go. Have an effect on the offending persons so to bring about his final triumph. We can rehearse these things in our head, of conversations, of things we need to say, of how things could have gone, right? Hoping that at some point you could somehow go back in time and redo the whole situation, right? It's the ego battling with you. I've mentioned before in other videos that the ego plays both sides of the fence. It simultaneously denigrates you and then also holds out this branch of hope, this olive branch of hope. It's fucked up. Like the ego, like it is and it isn't. But what you can do is you call in the cosmic army to destroy whatever that is, right? The ego is inherently evil in that sense, where it will take you out. Okay, the ego will take you out. It's the thing that is the source of the suicidal ideation, the passive ideation, right? The suicidal ideation can mean that you're actually plotting to make your suicide fruition. I'm not going to go into it. Passive ideation. It's really interesting, the differences between the two. The kernel of great beliefs hold the solution. Integration will remove all differences. The world needs hope. Okay. What can happen is when you've come from a life of despair, is that hope has kept you alive, right? Hope has kept you alive. That thing, whether it's the business, the relationship, the doubling down on your crypto wins, like 10xing this or that, hope becomes your anchor for living. And then without hope, you revert back to this seed of, well, what's the point? Like, what's the point, right? So what's the point comes back to some of the other I Chings that I've spoken to and that I've read through, is that life is a gift. It's a cosmic gift. Can you treat life as the gift? Can you treat yourself as the gift that you are? Okay. And then what is your relationship with gifts, right? The spiral runs high and low, okay? Human needs to work together to solve the world's problems. We don't need to work together, right? There's this obsession with having to form community and building a thing and doing a thing. We don't actually need to do that, okay? Because it's coming from an egoic place that we need to solve and work together. No, when you love, and I spoke about this in the previous hexagram, when you love yourself and you connect to true love, you naturally attract the people that want to come together to work on projects which may or may not influence the world's problems. Okay? Being obsessed that we have to solve the world's problems through politics or policy or whatever else is this human obsession that we are the center of the universe. We're not. We're not the center of the universe. Okay? Shuffling back here. This line is also saying that true satisfaction and nourishment comes from doing a thing for its own sake and not with any motive. This brings tears to my eyes and a smile. Okay, this is the thing. When someone says that they want to do something, oh, I'm doing it for X, Y, Z. I'm doing it because I want to feel better about myself. I'm doing it because of this. This is about being playful with life again. All right, you're doing something because of the nourishment in the action, right? Here's a life example, or a landmark example. If you've done landmark, they have the chocolate and vanilla analogy. I don't know if they're still doing that, but you got to choose chocolate or vanilla, right? So some people say, oh, I like chocolate because, I like the flavor of chocolate. It's a safe flavor for me. Or vanilla. Vanilla's my go-to, I like the flavor. So the justification underneath is not the satisfaction that comes from just doing it for the sake of the thing. I want chocolate because I want fucking chocolate. I want vanilla because I want fucking vanilla. I want that relationship because I want the fucking relationship, right? So in that, if you're doing a thing and trying to pillar it with all these justifications, you're not getting nourished. You're not getting nourished. Okay, can you feel that? You're not getting nourished when you're choosing a thing out of pros and cons or safety or this one, pre-digested food, and I'll highlight that one again for myself. Like, 'cause if I come back to this one again, like eating pre-digested food, like following in somebody else's footsteps or taking nourishment from somebody else's wisdom. It's like eating pre-digested food, right? We aren't birds, right? Can you imagine, like Ram Dass or some other great philosopher, with all this knowledge and technology in his mouth, and he's just regurgitating it into your mouth? Yes. Thank you, Joe Dispenza. Thank you, Tony Robbins. Yes, gurgitate into my mouth all of your borrowed wisdom, right? No, stop that. Find your own wisdom. This is what I love about this version of the I Ching, is it encourages you to, hey, have a look at this, allegorically, metaphorically, like it's a journey. It's like the woman who ran with the wolves. There's stories. That's why I find myth is so much more powerful than just outright knowledge, right? These ideas put poison arrows on his true nature, which make him look at himself either as his enemy or his potential enemy, okay? When you onboard your family's beliefs that are not filtered by your inner truth, you will become an enemy of yourself, which is at the source of a lot of depression and taking yourself out, getting into relationships out of approval, finding a job out of approval, right? Daddy, look at me. I finally bought my house. I remember when I bought my house, everyone was high-fiving me and my family. Yeah, I've done it. I've done it. Got my foot in the door. saved up enough money for the mortgage, broke the back of the mortgage through my offset account. I was killing it. And then I got into a relationship and just watched it all go, right? Because I wasn't in integrity. I wasn't living my truth. I didn't know how to live my truth. I felt that I needed to live my truth in order to stay in the relationship, but that wasn't, again, not dealing with the root of it all, trying to impress my partner. If I change my self-belief and live my truth, like start a permaculture farm or do whatever, or start witnessing about how the corporate career and the corporate life and living in the matrix isn't great. I'll earn your love, therefore I'll have completed life. I would have won the game of life, right? So knowing that these exist in your body are huge. Demonic figure that represents a mistaken idea, belief, or self-image he holds, he needs to use the RTCM to verify the correct meanings in these images and also learn the I Ching meditation. Need to make a mental note to go and make the meditation from the 52nd. A person's fantasy, here attention is drawn to a person's fantasy life. Okay, cool. It's the context of the 5 personality patterns. The leaving pattern uses hope and fantasy to stay on earth. I'll say that again. The leaving pattern uses hope and fantasy to stay here, okay? And that's a survival pattern. It's a survival pattern. So without it, without the hope and the fantasy, it's like, well, what am I going to do now, right? Which is why when you touch on survival patterns, you're circling the rim of self-annihilation, because what got you here, your body is like, well, it got me here. Look at all the successes it gave me. Look at the fantasy. Look at the vision. Like, look at this. Look at all the stuff it gives me. Look at the hope I give other people, right? But when you start looking at it yourself, and when you acknowledge that maybe this fantasy is not all it's cut out to be, and maybe I've got to stop this hope thing because I keep on attaching myself to people that I have all these hopes for, but they don't want to do the thing. Like in the 16-week program, the new one, the Aligned Attraction True Love, there's a waypoint on there called the Island of Red Flags, and the Island of Red Flags is the leaving pattern. Like I've mapped it to the leaving pattern, because they intellectually seal the red flags, but their fantasizing and their hopium just somehow makes them disappear and replaces them with potential flags, right? Okay. What else have I got in here that I highlighted that I wanted to speak to? Great, this one here. Ego emotions have encased the heart in an iron maiden of sorts, which prevents it from expanding. Okay, are you familiar with an Iron Maiden? No, not the band. An Iron Maiden is an ancient torture device which looks like a sarcophagus. Hopefully I can use the analogy of a sarcophagus. So a sarcophagus is what Egyptians used to bury their kings and queens and important people in. So it's a metallic casing that's got a hinge on it. Some of them did. And inside the sarcophagus, you could put a person, but with an Iron Maiden has metal spikes in there. So when you close the cage, the spikes imprint into the person. Okay, so the spikes imprint into the person, draining their blood and eventually killing them. Okay. Graphic, right? Humans. Now, I'm not sure why Iron Maidens were created, probably because of the animal nature of the human being. And so when you do use this as ego emotions, okay, so the armoring not only stops the heart from connecting to the body, it also hurts the heart, right? It hurts the heart. Ego emotions, okay? Ego emotions are emotions that you hang on to, right? So to genuinely learn how to feel, you feel, then you find the presence within the feeling. You allow your body to do whatever it needs to do. You complete the cycle of the feeling, and then you just move on. You're neutral again. Right? What happens is, if you don't know how to feel, you might rush off into an emotional regulation technique, try and breathe your way through it, tap your way through it, do pressure points, try and release it, No, it's not about releasing. It's not about breathing through. It's about feeling the fucking things, okay? When you learn how to feel your emotion deeply, you become connected to your true self. You invite all the helpers of the invisible world to help you. You connect to your common senses, and you de-armor your heart. You de-armor your heart. That Iron Maiden just naturally falls away, right? So when you have this on you, it prevents it from expanding when the opportunity to love occurs, okay? So which you can do all this inner work, but if you don't do it properly, if you don't do it in a way that connects you to your body, then when you do have a genuine opportunity to connect with love, you miss it because your heart is still armored. And you'll also find that when you get into a relationship, the remnants of the Iron Maiden can return because your reality is shifted. Because you're like, oh my God, I'm feeling these feelings for this person. And you need to complete the cycle in the relationship, right? The relationship is the finishing school of doing all the inner work, right? That's when you see people that testify that their work works. It only works if it's in a relationship, right? If the relationship falls apart, whatever the teaching is not working, right? It's not working. All right. Often this happens when the belief itself is the cause of an illness or other galling problems in his life, okay? So this is about the beliefs being inadequate, okay? This is really important, okay? A lot of people come to me when they realize that the life that they've been living is not working. All the belief systems, all the matrix structures, all the things, okay, this is not working, right? This is the invitation. This is an invitation to be like, oh, fuck. Like I've been drawing up like mud from the well, or my jug's been broken, or I've been treating it incorrectly. Like my life is a lie, effectively. My family's life is a lie, right? So they need to confront that. And then all of the pillars in their life that have supported them can fall away and reveal that, well, they weren't pillars after all. They were straws or something else. And how this feels in the body is very destabilizing. Very destabilizing, which is why it's more of a 12-month thing, right? Because you need that nurturing you need that consistency to show up as yourself outside of your family system or your peer system, right? Okay, I don't think I need to speak to any of those. Cracked jug, blah, 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 blah. No. Science. This is science again. Okay, so what happens here, the context of this hexagram, is that science becomes law, right? And then for me, I've pulled way back on looking for studies for things and all that kind of stuff because it locks other things in place. Okay, your belief systems lock other potentialities in place. Like I'm sure if you're following me, you've heard about 0 point energy and things that can operate in the invisible world. And so what happens is when you rely on the science of things is that you trap your belief system and the body in the world of non-miracles, in the world of the non-invisible world, where there's things that are happening in the invisible world at the atomic level a lot of the time, and we stop them by our ego. So by saying, oh, it's a scientific article that says, oxytocin or this or that or whatever, it's like, yeah, great, good. Is that actually helping you? So to pull yourself back from the science and learn to listen to your body, and sometimes you do need to go through the science, not inherently shitting on it, because sometimes you do need to go through the science. I know for me, my calcium was way low. My vitamin D was way low when I was in corporate. I didn't know that. I was still living my life. I could still get up in the morning, have my coffee, get paid. That was the metrics of my life. Cool, I'm paying my mortgage. I'm winning at life, right? But when my body started to break down, that's, oh shit, there's something wrong, like I mentioned before. The illnesses that you get, my beliefs are wrong. What do you mean? My family loves my beliefs because I have a house now. I can be secure, whatever that means, right? So saying no to science, saying no to things So saying no to the false beliefs of science that it's an absolute truth, saying no to that politics is the only way that we can shift the world, transform the world in policy, but it needs to come from an inner truth place. If it's not modest, if it's not sincere, it's not going to work, and you create a fate. Okay. If it's sincere, if you truly believe in the feeling, and it's the feeling body thing, if you can truly believe in your feelings that, I need to say the inner no to this, not from a helpless place, not like a savior place, but your truth, your unique essence of who you are, truth, things will shift. And don't watch it shifting, say the thing and move on. Go and have a banana smoothie or whatever it is you want to do. Go and play some computer games, go for a walk, go enjoy yourself, go talk to your dog or whatever, right? Go to the local farmer's market, whatever tickles your fancy, right? Go to a BDSM kink temple, whatever it is you do. But in that, find your truth. I love you. Bye.